Welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We're so excited to have you join us today, especially in lieu of the holidays coming up and year end. So, we appreciate you being here, whether you are here to listen and be a fly on the wall, or if you have specific questions that you want to come troubleshoot, new features you want to learn about, anything's fair game on this call. So, that being said, while everybody is getting settled in, we're going to do a quick little dive on a new feature and give you some examples for what you might use on those new custom folders now that we have the availability to open our own and that kind of thing. So, we'll give a tiny little demo and deep dive on that, share some examples that we've seen in the community, and then past that, we'll roll it over to any other topics that we want to take it. Feel free to either throw that in the chat or do a little raise hand or something like that, whatever feels most comfortable for you, so that we can keep track of every question and nobody gets missed.
Well, as Erica said, we've got the new custom folders section available to us in our client files. So when you're in your client account, up here at the top, you've got that files button. Click there and this screen will open. And you can toggle between all files and client portal files. This is what the client will see. And this is what you have access to here. So this is what we've been using thus far, is this auto-organized folders, and this is all based on the close. It's based on the transaction that you're assigning it to, the task that it's assigned to. Those kinds of things determine where that file will live in this structure down here. Up here, your custom folders, you get to decide how you want things to be structured. You can make these folders to be anything that you would like. You can also have subfolders. Let me move our faces out of the way here. Over here on the side, you can see where you can add subfolders as desired there. So some people might want to keep everything with the close or inside the vendors that are here available to them. Others might want to have it gathered up here at the top. It's really your preference. The client, when they upload, bulk upload into that inbox, those are going to be housed down here. And then you can move them. And of course, you can move them to your custom folders as well. So if you wanted to have bank statements all together at the top, you can simply move it there. That's a real quick, super fast overview. I'll open it up to questions, or Erica, if there's anything else you wanted to highlight, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple of things to note with this. So, again, personal preference on whether you leave the auto-organized folders. That's going to keep it to where all of these documents are going to be associated with this close. So going back a close, you can see those documents, or creating a new close, you can have those documents with each close. Or there may be some benefit to you, especially like mentally keeping track and keeping everything up top. Now, one thing to note, if you are going in and adding new folders, you can create them just like Jody showed by adding a folder individually inside of this client. You also have the option to copy a folder structure exactly from another client. So if you set up one and you really have it, you like it that way, then you can copy it from one client to another. There's also the option to drag and drop. So if you have a file structure on your computer or something like that that you want to drag over, that's an option as well. So just giving some options on how to set this up. But if you are going to set this up and this is something that you want to use for these custom folders, I would definitely recommend considering putting a step on here for or on your onboarding template to remind yourself or whoever's helping you with onboarding to set up this file structure and give a little example of how you'd like it structured, just so that that's consistent across all your clients coming forward.
One thing I also wanted to point out was it says portal visibility. So whether or not it's visible to the client. You'll see here that it says visible. When I hover over, I could hide that from the client view if I'd like. And now it says hidden. Down here in your auto organized folders, you don't necessarily have that option. So if you do want it to be something hidden from them, you'll want to put it up there into one of your custom folders. I see that Lindy, I think, had a question. Maybe. Saw her hand raised for a moment there.
Hey there. I'll get my video in a second when I can figure it out.
Don't
No,
even worry about it.
When you say folder structure, I'm not sure I understand. Do you mean like it might have a subfolder or something
Right.
like that? Okay, okay.
Exactly. So if you wanted to create a folder within your folders,
Where you had
or even
bank.
if it's just a right, or even if it's just a group
Okay, okay. I just didn't
of
know if there
folders. So
was
that's
something about folders that I didn't know. Okay, I got
Yeah,
it.
great question. Great question.
I see what you mean. Like if I had a parent folder and then maybe I do bank 3 or 4 different bank subfolders or something like
right.
that, then I would want
Yeah.
to copy that whole structure over. Okay, cool.
Exactly. And especially bank statements is a great example where you might have bank statements and then you may have it for each account. So maybe they have a loan account and then they have a credit card and then they have, a credit account or anything like that. You can create subfolders to kind of organize that as well.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
can keep going if you want to. So if you want to start breaking it up by dates, you can have multiple subfolders and folders within folders within folders.
Gotcha, gotcha.
I don't know how deep it goes, but you're welcome to test it out.
Okay, no, that's cool. I want to make sure I understood the terminology.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
great question.
absolutely.
And Kate, I saw you had your hand raised and put something in the chat about setting these as defaults. Did you have another question or should we answer that one?
Well, I did have another question, but yeah, about the defaults location, like where would it store? But also if there are some that end up in the some things that end up in the auto organized. Somebody else had mentioned about bulk, moving things in bulk. Do we know yet if like we can select multiple things and drag them up into that custom section?
Right
Awesome.
here, you can click on the side or anything like that, and then you can come up here to move in bulk.
Perfect. Terrific.
Also,
Dragging and
good
dropping
to-
isn't working. You'll have to go through the buttons up here.
Yeah, but just to make sure everybody noticed that as well, you do have the option to select multiple and download. So that'll make it easier for if you're keeping this in an external file system, or if you're offloading somebody and needing to grab all of those documents, seems like it's a little bit easier to kind of bulk download some of those files now as well. Yeah, and you also had a question, Kate, about setting it as a default location. I think that's a great question. Jody, do you know that one, or should we look that one up and kind of answer that in our follow-up?
I guess I might need a clarification there. What do you mean by default location?
Well, I mean, I guess it would go up in their like the client inbox. I guess if the client uploaded things, or like if you're attaching, I guess if you're attaching things to a question, where
whatever question that's assigned to will be in here.
oh, okay, so that just goes there. You can't like put those all into up into like the other.
No, it would be down here, and then you'd have to move them if you want them to be organized in a different space.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Like if you want to clear out your inbox every week, you would come in here, move all of those files to where you want them to go, and then that inbox will sit empty, ready for the next round of uploads from the client.
Would you mind, Jody, would you mind opening up the non-closing sections?
Sure. I currently don't have anything in there.
So, okay.
In our demo account.
Right. Okay. So like if they upload questions, upload documents in those non-closing sections, the client does.
I believe that's actually for the tasks in your internal non-closing section.
Oh, that's right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question on that terminology. Just wanted to clear that up. That's going to be for the non-closing tasks and any attachments. But then when you come, exactly. It'll go into client communications. Yep.
For those non-transaction questions, I believe they would be housed here.
Yeah.
And then that's all probably in one, all of them will be in that one folder then, would be my guess.
I haven't tested it out yet. Has anybody else played around with this area? You're welcome to chime in if you have personal experience with it.
Okay,
Mhm.
we can do a little bit of testing and I'll send it out in my follow-up, just add as a
Yeah.
note in the bottom to let you guys know. We'll play around in our demo here, clarifying, because that's a great question, whether it goes all into that
Yes.
base folder or whether it separates them out into transaction and non-transaction, or how that actually looks on your end. So I'll add that to our follow-up.
I saw in the chat, Diana asked if it automatically moves the doc that the client has uploaded to the appropriate folder, or is that something we need to do? So I just wanted to reiterate that is a manual process that you will have to decide where you want that file to go, and then you can move it to that location.
And then Casey, I saw your hands raised. What do you have? What question?
Yeah, I guess my question is like, what is the, I understand the difference of the custom folder structure and the auto organized and how the documents get in there, but is there a reason why you would be moving things from the auto organized up into your custom folder structure rather than just leaving things where they are down below?
I think
That's
it's
a
going to
great
come down to
question.
preference. Really.
And
Go
Yeah,
ahead, Erica.
Jody. Go for it. I'll pitch in if I have anything else.
Sure. I think it is going to be a firm by firm preference level. They have the ability here for you to house everything in here. So if you were previously using Google Drive or Dropbox and you were wanting to get out of that system and move everything into Keeper, this could house all of that extra stuff that you didn't, that you had in a separate location before. I don't think that there's any like hard and fast, like, yeah, you probably would use it for this specific thing every time. I really do think it's going to come down to that firm preference and how they want to utilize it.
Yeah, and I think one thing to note here with the auto organized, it's going to be organized by close. So that means that you may have to go back to the previous close and open this up to see those folders for that previous close, instead of the custom folders seem like they're going to be consistent no matter what close you open. So that's
Well,
one
they'll
thing
be-
to note as well.
Yeah, it'll just be a lot of subfolders too. So yeah, you'll have to play around with it to figure out what feels comfortable. And if you like the way that it's auto organized, then you could by all means leave it this way. If it starts to feel clunky for you, then you can set it up the way that you'd like to see it and move things around.
Yeah, or if you have any sections that you're like, even in the auto organized, there's not a section for this, like those onboarding documents or anything like that, that would be another great use for the custom structure up at the top.
That's one of the sections I was going to do, like, basic general company information as a place to put those.
Yeah, absolutely. And you actually have a
questions.
great point that you threw in the chat, that this is going to be really helpful for non-connected accounts as well. Right?
Yes.
Because there's a little bit of a more limited structure on those auto organized. So great ideas that are starting to kind of bounce off. Yeah. And let's see.
I saw a
Taz.
question about parting ways with a client and all the files you might have on hand. I don't know if there's like a seamless way of doing that to where you can like download all of the folder structures as well. If you were to open everything up and, click on all of your files, you can download. And I believe it's going to give it to you in a zipped folder. So you can just send that zipped folder to your client. Again, it would not have that folder structure to it. I think it's just going to be a big bulk of all of those documents. So if you wanted to do it fast, that would probably be the easiest way, is just select everything, do a download into a zip file, and send that off to your client.
Yeah, great question. One other piece,
For
feel
now.
free to continue adding questions in the chat. I want to make sure everybody feels like heard and understood here. But one other piece to mention is, as an owner, feel free to play around, figure out what you like, do a little bit of a test run with this next close maybe. But one thing is, if you decide to roll this out and there is a difference of where you want your team to organize things, really good to do a mini team training or on your next like meeting, or even shoot a Loom, sharing that info so that it's across everybody. It's really easy when we implement a new process for that to get lost in the shuffle and everybody's habits to take over. So one thing is really to add it to your onboarding list so that next clients that you onboard still have that same process and structure, and then distinguishing it out to your team in training so that they have something to go back to and they understand the why to help them implement that new idea. All right, Amanda, seem like you have a couple of questions here in the chat. Can we move client folders into firm folders? Ooh, I think that's a great question. I don't know that that's capable quite yet. Jody, do you have any ideas about that?
No, as far as I understand thus far, all we have are client folders. So files and folders within your client accounts, not ones that are set apart from that into a firm section that's separate from clients.
That's a really great question, though, and a really great idea.
Yeah.
So if there's not a canny already, I'll go ahead and add one and send it in my follow-up. So anybody who would like something like that can have that option or go upvote as well. And then is there a way to bulk download all client files? Amanda, great question. Jody, do you mind running through that one more time?
Yep. So when you're in here in all of your files, you can select them by checking the box to the side. And when you do that, it's going to come up with the items up here and you can download all of the ones that are selected right there. And as I believe it comes into you in a zipped file. And Diana asked a question about what is meant by a non-connected client. So I just switched over. Can you still see this all right? Can you see the client list? Okay, good. So right now in our demo account, this one here, Growth Custom Landscaping, is the only one that's connected to QuickBooks. The rest of our accounts here are non-connected clients. So right up here at the top, you'll see where I have the option to connect them if I want to. Otherwise, all I have available to me is the non-closing task section, some of our custom sections. But all of the ones where Keeper pulls those reports from the accounting software are going to show up like this. They're going to show as non-connected. You won't have access to those reports. So you can still have the non-connected clients in here, utilize some of the task list features, utilize the client portal, your files, all of that will still be available to you. You just don't have the data coming from the accounting software.
And this can be a really great thing to consider, or at least keep in mind if you have clients that are low volume or low ticket and they don't just justify that price of being connected, because non-connected clients you will not be charged for, while still being able to have the availability to, like Jody said, have the client portal. Any info, notes, call notes, anything like that are still available. And then you can still have tasks in the same platform, so those tasks for those clients don't get missed. I've seen this most often with, like I said, clients who are low volume or who may not justify the price. Also, if you're doing just payroll or anything like that, that are a little bit more segregated, you can also consider adding those as non-connected clients as well, just to keep, again, your tasks all in the same platform and keep on top of those projects as well.
I'm gonna let you keep going, Erica. I'm pulling up something to be able to show them about disconnecting clients. This can take me just a second to get that open.
Perfect. Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions? I just want to make sure we're starting to get a little queue going for anything else. Oh, Lindy, perfect.
Okay, while my QuickBooks is opening up here, I'm going to answer the question about disconnecting your clients. If you disengage in them, you want to disconnect them from Keeper so you're not paying for them every month, but what do you do with all that data? What do you do with that information that you have with that account? So one thing that I would recommend is downloading as much as you possibly can. So you'll see here where you can export to CSV. This little box here, it will pop up in a lot of places. So you will have that opportunity to export quite a few things. And I'll show you what our template looks like for offboarding. Backup keeper data here. So you can get your client communication. Like I said, there's that export to CSV button. So there's all these areas where you can download the information. And then when you go into your QuickBooks account, can you see the QuickBooks account overlapping there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in QuickBooks, you'll come here to your apps section. And you would find Keeper and disconnect it. So everything else that's in Keeper would stay where it is if you wanted to go that route. And you wouldn't necessarily need to download like all of your time tracking, the portal, things like that. What you wouldn't have access to is the transactions themselves that would be removed from the account.
So that's a
Hope that-
better approach than deleting deleting the client in Keeper. This actually
That's what
also-
I would do. Yes. Yeah. Unless you want to like completely clear them out of your client list. Disconnecting them also gives you the ability to, if they come back to you, you can reconnect them and everything's still there.
And this, if you want to clear them out of your mental list and out of your client list, but not fully delete them out of Keeper, one thing I might suggest is creating a custom property called disconnected or disconnected from QBO, something like that with a little checkbox. And then you can filter your client list based on anybody who doesn't have that property. So that's an easy workaround if you want to keep those. You're not ready to part quite yet, but you at least don't want to see them on your active list right in here once you first log in.
Taylor asked a great question that if you disconnect them from QuickBooks, the way that I showed you through the apps section, does that stop Keeper from charging you? I would say yes, that in the way that I understand it, yes, because I believe what Keeper's looking for is the ones that are actually connected. So if they aren't connected, they shouldn't count towards your numbers.
Yeah, that's something I'll double check on just to make sure.
Yes.
And confirm that. So I've got that on my list as a follow-up as well.
Another example of when you may disconnect them from the accounting software side versus deleting them from Keeper is if it's a once a year project that you do with them and you don't want to remove all of the client communications and all of that you have because you know you're going to be helping them again the following year, whether it's just like a 1099 client or somebody that you do, work on twice a year, something like that, to where it's a very limited amount of time and you don't want to be charged for them for the entire year. You could have them connected for the time that you need them connected and then disconnect them until you're ready to do work for them again.
Quick question, is that an alternative to archiving them at the moment, or do you lose all the transactional questions along with it when you disconnect?
That's a good question. I have not tested to see what happens with those transaction questions within the portal. To my understanding, you would not have access to them because that's connected to QuickBooks. If you reconnect them, would you have them back? That I don't know. We'd have to ask Keeper, and we may need to do some testing to find out more details there.
Great question. I'll add that to my follow-up again. Judy, Lindy had a question about due dates. Would you mind scrolling back through the chat? When you select done for a task, it doesn't update the date to the date completed.
Oh, as under your tasks? For our tasks. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, under
So
tab.
when you're in your account, let this load. If you have a due date in here, I'm going to do a different one. If you have a due date of the 19th, but I completed it today, it's going to show as done. This is showing the date that you originally put in there. It will not automatically update. Where you can see when that task was completed would be on your task list. you have the option to add in a couple of columns if you click on this little grid here. And you can see completed at and completed by.
Awesome. That'll probably take care of what we're worrying with.
Now, when you do that, you'll
Mhm.
also, because it defaults to everything that has been completed, or not started. So if you're looking for this information to find out when things were completed, I'd recommend coming in and maybe turning the ones off that are to be done, turning this one on so that you can actually see all that information.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So when you come
Mhm.
in to this, the default is going to be just your
Not completed, yeah.
tasks. Once they're marked done, they'll get off this list. So you need to come in here on your status and click to show completed items as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
great mention there,
thanks.
Judy.
Yeah.
Taylor, you had a question about some good uses for firm tasks. I think that's a great question. So for anybody a little bit unfamiliar with this section, this is a great place, ends up being kind of a catch-all for things that fall outside of our client work. So a lot of times I'll see this section used for admin or VA tasks that go on behind the scenes. There's a couple people that I've seen use this for content ideas or those kind of pieces. Great idea to use this for any onboarding or training for a team member, because you can still assign these tasks and they do still show up in your task list. So great way to do something like that, that again is outside of client work, but allows us to catch some of those pieces that are going on behind the scenes in our firm. Also
Yep.
seen somebody
And-
do this. Oh, sorry, one more idea before I forget.
Go for it.
Also have seen somebody use this for like team meetings. If their team does a reflection before the meeting, creating a section for weekly reflections or something like that, that you can link to an external doc or just have a due date on because it's recurring. That may also be another I love that that example section that you put in. Sorry, I just caught that. But that's another great couple of ideas just to get you started. So feel free, Jody. I didn't mean to step on your toes.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that the way that these sections in here function are very much like your non-closing task section. So you've got your due soon, due later, and completed. Also, the tags that are available to the non-closing tasks are also available here. They will not be a separate list. So if you have things that you want to use tags for just in firm's tasks, you can add tags for firm tasks. They'll just all be here intermingled with your non-closing task tags as well. But these function the same way. So you've got those 3 tabs. If it's not within 7 days, you'll see it as due later. Yeah.
One thing to note,
look
because
at
I
it.
know that this is always a question that comes up. This section is visible regardless of your status on the team. So regardless of whether you're a standard or an admin user, this is a section that's completely visible. So this is probably not the best place for your sensitive HR tasks to pay your employees or to go look up how to respectfully fire somebody. Probably not the section for that. If you need a workaround for something specific for you that you're a little bit nervous about having your own list for inside this section, because I have seen this be like a CEO task or those kind of things. If you have anything sensitive, you can create a separate client and only assign to you so that other standard users on the team don't have visibility on that. Your admins will still have visibility as they can see all clients across the firm, but it does reduce the visibility across like those standard users and those kind of things. So that's always one of the questions that come up with firm tasks is like, how visible are they and how can we create something if we need it in the same system that isn't quite as visible?
Saw a question from Amanda about if you reconnect a client. Well, let's just put it this way. If you download a CSV, can you then import it? Can you bring it back into Keeper? And at this point, they do not have that capability to import CSV files. I know that getting the export CSV files in there is part of that roadmap. It's one of the stepping stones that it takes to build that structure that they need in order to get there, but we don't have that capability yet. So it's on, I'm sure it's on the roadmap somewhere. But as of now, no, you will not be able to import information. These are great questions, everybody. Feel free to ask questions, raise your hand, drop questions into the chat about any feature or any question that you might have about Keeper, or things that you're curious about, maybe something that you're trying to figure out how to do, but you're not quite sure, or you're looking for a workaround for something that is limited, but you would like to see if there's a way of doing it. It's one of our favorite
Anything's
things to
fair
do is
game on
problem
this
solve.
call. And Casey, I love your comment about being able to add emojis. That's one of my favorite things. For
Yes.
some people, it does not work. So mind your team and mind what works best for you. But I appreciate being able to integrate them, partially just because right now within the tasks, we don't have the availability to underline or bold. So especially in those task descriptions or in the sub checklist, I really love being able to have like a little star or something like that to bring attention, or a little humor into the workday and the tasks you're
Yes.
doing.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
Just
Diana,
keep
you
it
have a...
remind you of your tasks. Oh,
Yeah,
go
we're
ahead,
on the same
Erica.
page. No, we're on the same page. Go ahead.
So you do have the option to receive a daily digest. If you come up here to your user settings, so you'll click on your initials or your picture if you've uploaded one. Here's where you could do so if you want to add one in. But you have the option here for daily task digest emails. So if you have this on, every morning you will get an email that either says, congratulations, all your tasks are complete, you're doing great, or you'll have a list. And at the top of that list will be anything that is marked as high priority for the entire team. It'll show you the high priority for the whole team, whether it's assigned to you or not. And then it'll show you your assigned tasks. And I want to say that maybe at the bottom, it can show you others, or it might just be that high priority across the team.
Depends on how big your list is. Transparently,
Yes.
if your high priority list is quite long, then that's what you get shown. I know this from personal experience because I forget to clear my
Yes.
tasks out. So just note that is going to take up the most amount of real estate, and that's a little bit dependent on your list specifically.
Yeah. So how you denote whether something is a high priority or not, and like what you do in Keeper to flag it, is clicking on that little star. So if it has a star next to it, Keeper says, okay, this is a high priority item. I'm going to put it at the top of the list. In order to see that star, all you have to do is hover over the line and the star will appear for you to be able to click it or uncheck it if you decide that it's not a high priority item.
Yep. So that's what Keeper is going to pull from, is those starred or high priority tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I do want to show Jody is how we can look at our task list for today or our overdue task list inside of Keeper if we're trying to start our day or suggest our team how to start our day too.
This is an excellent way to get started without being completely overwhelmed by the number of tasks you might have on the list, because the more clients you have, the more tasks, but they all might have different due dates or different priorities. There's a lot of ways that you can sort and manipulate this list. So this is your task list. Again, it shows you every client, every task. You can come in here and sort, filter. So Keeper at the top here has quick filters of just high priority tasks. You can also do assigned to me. So here's all of the high priority tasks assigned to me. Here's all of the tasks assigned to me regardless of the priority. But you also have due dates. So here you can do a quick drop down to see what's overdue. You could see what is due just today. Nothing, woohoo. Maybe what's due this week. You can also do that with due today or overdue, so you're catching everything from previous as well. So they've got these quick ones in here for you, but you can also filter by columns. So anywhere you see this little funnel, this little filter, you can change what you see. So I'm going to go back to default here. And some of the ones that we have saved, let's see. My to-do list. See, I love emojis. I use them a little too much, but that's for me to play around with. Do this week as a team. Trying to figure out ones. Oh, here's one that's just payroll. So
Yeah,
this
and
one I'm
let's
pulling
break
just
this
the
one down
payroll
a little
tasks.
bit because this one's
Yes.
really helpful to understand just conceptually.
Yep. So the columns that you have here, let me expand them: close, section, task, status, due dates, assigned to, and priority. And remember, if you want to, you can add in description if you'd like to see the full description of it, or if you needed to see who it's completed by. Under your section, you can select just one section to see, whether it's your closing tasks, custom section within that, if it's your non-closing tasks. Now, remember we pointed out earlier about non-closing task tags. Well, all of those show up here as a filter option. So this particular list is filtered by the payroll tag. And so you can see non-closing tasks, payroll, and that's how we got this list to be the way that it is. But you can do that for any of them. I'm trying to think of other examples, Erica.
This can be really helpful as a CEO or admin if you're trying to look at the onboarding tasks. So we showed payroll. That is really helpful because that goes across clients and can really help you narrow in on like, okay, I know I have to do payroll, but who's due this week? Where's that at? This can be really helpful for like onboarding tasks as well. If you have multiple people onboarding or you want to see a list of just the onboarding tasks that you have. So again, any tags you can do this with, but those are kind of two most typical that I've seen. And in case you didn't mention it, Jody, anytime you make changes to this list or the client list, depending on how you filter, if you show different columns, that save view button comes up on the top. So if you have something that you go to every single week, like you go to that payroll list and you want to save that view so you don't have to click around that exact same time, then you can save that view.
So you'd click save view. So again, anytime you make a change here, this will pop up, save view. And I'm going to put in here, this is my onboarding and offboarding. So that's the filter that I chose. Now, once I've named it, I've got the option for who has access to this list. Do I want it to be a private list? This is just for me to see, or is this going to be a list that I want the entire firm to be able to see? So those are the two options. You won't have an option for maybe just your admin users or just standard users. It's either yourself or everybody. So if I click on firm wide so that everybody can see these tasks, the little people are going to be up next to it that shows you that it's shared with multiple people. If it does not have that, then it will be just a private view. Of course, if you hover over, it'll also show you that it's shared.
Time.
Yes,
yep, exactly. And
so
if you're on a saved, yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
Yep. If you need to make changes, the little dots right here is your menu. You can duplicate it, rename it, delete it, or change that sharing back to private.
One thing to note if you're getting stuck on this, like say your admin or another person on the team creates this as a firm-wide view, if you're having trouble updating this or you want to change the name, that is limited to the person who created it. I only say this not to make it more complex, but I've been in the situation where Jody's created a view and I'm like, I can't rename this or share it and I can't figure out how to change it. So whoever created that initially is who's going to be like in charge or have those editing properties. So just something to note if you're having a hard time with that.
And they did add the feature now to where you can see who that person is when you hover over it.
That's beautiful. I always had to hunt that back down a couple months ago and I was like, I don't know who created this. Yep, that's amazing.
Yeah. But now you can just hover over it and it tells you who to go to update it if needed. All right.
Jody, we've got a couple of questions about the reporting section and how to keep that clean and tidy as well. So if you don't mind popping into those.
Absolutely. I love the collapse sections up here to just get to the one that I need without having to see all of the other, get distracted by all of my other tasks. So that's an excellent thing you can come do right as soon as you open up your client, hit close or collapse sections, and then you can just go to the one that you need. So I'm just going to go to transaction review because I know I saw a question about clearing out some old information. So an example of this would be maybe you have had your client in Keeper for a while, but you hadn't utilized it quite as fully until recently. So you've got, maybe it's data from 2022, that year's over. You're not going to be making changes to those transactions. It is what it is. You just need them off your list. That would be one really good example of when you might need to do this. So if you come in, let's just do transactions without payees. You can choose to run all dates. And then from here, you can filter those dates that you want to clear out. So let's pretend that my January is actually all of 2022, just to give an example here. If I filter that, so now I know that this is filtered, it's only the information that I'm ready to get rid of. Now I can, if I have a lot, I can come down here and change the number per page. I max it out to 100. And then what I can do is come back to the top, bulk select all of these. Once you do that, you have the option down here to clear them out or to update them if needed. So you can just come here to the status, mark them as reviewed, and it clears it off your active list here and moves it to the reviewed over here. I'm not actually going to do it today because I've got to use this demo for something else later. But yeah, so that would be a way to clean up old reports if you're not needing to actually do work to update them within the system. You can use that same feature to bulk update things on any of these. So you can just come in and select multiples. It'll pop up. You can set that payee, get that done quickly instead of having to go line by line. So in any of these reports, if you click multiple lines, you'll have the option to, this menu down here will pop up to give you options of what you can update.
And Marianne, let us know if you have I know you're new to Keeper, so congrats on that, first of all. Second of all, let us know if you have a specific report you were curious about or anything like that. We're happy to do a deeper dive into that.
While we're looking at this menu, add to client questions. If it's all the same exact question, for one of my clients, lots of Amazon purchases, I always have to ask about them. I can just bulk add them from QuickBooks, come in here, select all of them at one time, then ask my question and move on with my day. So I'm not spending time going through every single transaction. It just helps to speed up that process.
Yeah, feel free to pop any other questions about this reporting section in the chat. We're happy to dig into it. Jody, we did have a question about creating a custom property since we already mentioned it. Sarah, I know you mentioned you found it, but just in case anybody else is curious about this, I want to go ahead and show how to create a custom property for saving some of that client information or anything like that.
Absolutely. So there's two ways to get to it. Since we're already in the client view, let me show you that way first. From the client view, you're going to come up here to the info. I like to call it the info card or the ID card. That's up here. All of these are considered properties. So every one of these lines is called a property. There are a handful that come built in with Keeper. Otherwise, the rest of these are custom made. You can see we do a lot of playing around in our Keeper or in our demo account here, which is why you see so many. But then you've got the opportunity over here to add the property, delete them if it's something you're no longer using, or reorder them. If you choose any of these, it will be a firm-wide change. So reordering them, that's going to be for every client, every user. Same thing with deleting or adding. So once you click on add, you'll have this box come up. I'm going to wait to go into all of these for just a second. Because the other way to get to those buttons is to come up to your settings. So this is going to be your practice settings, all client settings. And then that third tab there is your properties. This window here is where you could make those updates to all of your clients at one time. So if you are adding a new property and you want to update it for everybody, highly recommend doing it from this screen. Same 3 buttons available to you over here. If I want to add the property now, I'm going to go into this to show you what different types you can add. Plain text box. So that's like this one here in the background where you can just type in information that you need. A checkbox, that's going to be a yes or no, or on or off. You can have a space for attachment. Some people have what is their engagement
Your
letters
engagement letter.
are often there, or maybe a tax form that you might need. You can select a drop down. With the drop down, you can enter in whatever you want for the options there. Then you also have the option for date or user drop downs to be selected. Once you give it a name, you can play with it here. So you've got the on or off ones. And again, all of the things that you create here, you can filter your task list. You can filter, not your task list, you can filter your client list for those saved views there. Here's just, yeah, here's a drop down example.
And just to give a bit of context, I do have a resource about this that I'm happy to send out, but just at a base, some of the most common that we've seen are a checkbox for additional services. So that you can filter down just your payroll clients or just your clients that you do 1099s or sales tax for. That can be really helpful. I believe one of the defaults now is actually service tier or service level, but you can go deeper into that or add some options. We've seen a lot of people do EINs or client information like their client email address or team members, just so you can have that easy like client info screen to go back to if you do, instead of having to hunt through your emails and find that person's email or anything like that. That can also be super helpful.
We've got an example here that shows all of these. Now, how do you see all of those properties, those custom properties that you bring in? They are going to show up between who's working on the account and all of your close information. So when you come up to this grid, this is where you can choose to hide or remove columns. This does not turn off any of your settings or your features. This is just the visibility of them. So like these would be the preparer, reviewer, manager. We've changed the names of those. If you guys want to see that, I can show you too. But you unchecking these does not turn them off. It just hides them for view. So they're not part of that part of the screen, and it can shorten what you have listed there. But all of your custom properties are going to be housed under properties here. And you can turn them on, turn them off to view whatever it is you'd like to. And I like to highlight this because it was also a recent addition, is your latest published financial report is also an optional column for you to add in. But the way that it's structured here, so top down is how you will see it from left to right. So if you want to reorder these, if you drag this up, then that's going to make the one that you drag up to the top be the first column that you see there. So the order that it shows here will show across your screen.
And this can be really helpful. A lot of people have a hard time navigating or transferring information from your CRM or whatever you're using on the sales side when you're gathering some of that initial information or you're onboarding, to making it visible for the team or you to go back to. So adjusting your actual custom properties can kind of help merge those two, or at least provide a nice section so that once you set up the client and create a new client, then you can fill in that information for easy reference for you or anybody else on the team.
I know we are about out of time. I'm going to answer one more question about the time tracking. We just saw one pop in about premium subscription. So if you have a premium account with Keeper, that enables you to have time tracking as well as white label. So when you go to your client portal, you can have your logo, your colors, that kind of thing, and your URL. The time tracking where you can create work streams. So if you have it turned on, you've got your time tracking is going to be here in your settings. Excuse me. If you have premium, you have the option to turn it on or turn it off. So if it's on, this will allow the users to click the start button up here to start timers going. Enable timer notifications. This is wonderful as a reminder to change the timer that you're working on or the work stream that you're working on. So every time you change your screen from one client to the next client, a window will pop up and ask you if you want to change your timer. So that way, as you go through, you can make sure that you're allocating the right time to the right client. You have two options for your time tracking: client work streams and firm work streams. So if you're working on a client, you can come in here and you would select what work stream you want, and I'll show you where those are all, but this is where you would enter them in or edit them. Same thing with the firm. You can also add in here your client rates, and I'll show you why you might want that in just a second. So if you were to click on to start your timer, here's where you get to choose whether you're doing client work or firm work. You select your client, you select the work stream, and then you can add in extra notes if you would like to. You also have the option to mark something as billable or not billable if that is something that you want to track as well. So same thing with firm. Get that. Now, admin users will have the option up here to see all of the time tracking, and they've got extra tabs within this section to be able to pull some reports and have more visibility. So as every user can click on their clock up here and it will open up all of their timers. If they need to edit, you can edit. So you just click in here, you can edit the date or the time. Same thing with your end time. That will automatically adjust your total hours. If you edit, let me show you. So if I were to change this to 210, click save. So I've made a change to what I went backwards in time. It will show here edited. So you can tell whether a contractor or an employee or a user has manipulated the time here. It's very common to accidentally leave a timer running. Can't tell you how many times I've come back in and saw that over the weekend, I did 48 hours worth of work on one client. Clearly I did not. So I had to come back in here and adjust that, and it would show as edited there. You can also update your client, your work stream, whether it's billable or not, and add notes from this screen as well. So if you need to go back and add more detail, you can absolutely do that. That's for all users. You can also do that from here with your own timers. Admin users will see timers for every user. And then just real quick here, because I know we're running out of time. For those who are tracking employee work, you can do that by employee. You can pull timers. You can set the parameters for the date range to pull like how many hours they worked in a single week, maybe over the month. If you wanted to use that for payroll, you can do that. The client reporting comes in handy. So this is where that rate, if you put in your client rate, it will show you what the effective hourly rate is based on how much time was tracked to that client. I went over this super fast because we're right at the end of the session, but please let me know if you have additional questions about this, or if you need to, you can hang on a little bit after we're done. I'm happy to go over it a little bit more slowly.
Yeah, one other thing to note, if you do enable time tracking for your team, one of the most helpful things in Keeper is that when you open up a close page for a client, it will bring up that reminder to set your timer, which can be really, really helpful to make sure that you and everybody on your team has the visual reminder to start a timer once they click into that client. Yep, thank you.
Yep, it's this enable timer notification. So then if I go in, this window will pop up. And it will show me the close because that's what I'm currently on, or I can change the work stream if I'm doing something different. Then if I come up here and I change my account, it will ask me if I want to change my timer. So if I actually have one started, I'm just going to go ahead and start that, let that run. Then if I change this will be the screen that you would see. You switch clients. Do you want to update your timer? Maybe I say no. I want to go to my client list. It's going to pop up here as well. So when you go inside a client, when you go out of a client, anytime you change that screen, you will get this as a flag or as a reminder to update. Again, you have to enable this notification.
And you can see up in the top right corner, you do have that green to kind of add a visual element, or when you have a timer on, you do have a timer up in the top of the tab. So a couple of ways as just like visual reminders that a timer is going to try and help jog our brains that this is on.
Yeah. There is no pause. I know that's another big question, so I'll go ahead and answer it. There's not a pause, and you cannot have 2 timers going at once. Yeah. It's been a great call, everybody. You had lots of amazing questions.
Yeah, you guys
Excellent.
have wonderful questions. Thanks for making this interactive. I know we are about time, so anybody who does have an additional question, I know we were banging them out today. So if you didn't get to your question, we're happy and we have a little bit of availability to stay on. If you do need to leave us, that's totally fine. We hope that you have a lovely holidays and great new year and everything like that. We will send out a reminder on about the next one, but it'll again be the 3rd Wednesday. So after close is finished for January, we'll meet back up and we can talk about all things 1099s or anything else that's coming up in Keeper. So from there, feel free to stay around if you guys have additional questions or maybe something that feels a little bit more personal that you'd like to talk about. But past that, feel free to hop off if you need to.
Thanks, everyone.
And anybody else who's left, feel free to pop in a question in the chat, raise your hand, whatever feels comfortable from here. A little bit looser now.
Yes. Go ahead,
Kate,
Kate.
go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question on with the work streams. Like, how do you, like, I saw when you were flipping through them, how you had your, a couple different things, like admin and client work. But then, like, what types of aspects do you can you put that in? Is that, I guess
It's wide open. When you go in here for the first time, that it will be blank.
Yeah.
The only thing that defaults is that close.
Right.
So otherwise you add in whatever it is that you're wanting to track. If you want QC work to be different, you can do that. What'd you ask?
I don't think I saw mine wasn't looking like that. Oh, I was only in the first tab. That's why.
Yep. Important to note,
yeah.
down in time tracking
General here.
and then over to Workstreams. Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And then
That's
add
what
up here and you just type in. Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
welcome.
Great question.
I guess I'll leave it shared.
I mostly just stayed to say thank you. This was a great call, and you answered my
Good to see you,
questions without
Devin.
me even having to ask them. You managed, like they
Awesome.
just came up in conversation. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thanks for
Thanks for
being
hopping
here.
on, Devin. Marianne, feel free to pop in with your question.
Yeah.
What you got?
Like I said in my chat, that I'm really new to Keeper and I'm trying to figure out what the best way is to use it. And I see all this, and I'm pretty new to the business too. I only have like 4 clients, so I'm kind of learning as I go. So I'm working on a cleanup, and I'm done with, September, October, November, and I need to do statements for my client, or financial statements, but I don't quite understand how Keeper helps me do that.
Are you wanting to do it for each month? Like to post them for each month that you've completed, or do you want to do it just year end, everything that you've done so far?
I think each month, so they get used to looking at it each month.
Sure.
And also so I can figure out how I'm going to do it for each month.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go into an old client. No, I can't do that because it's not connected anymore. Never mind. Let me go back to this one. Okay, well, I gotta turn that off because I don't want that on in my demo account.
Mhm.
So I don't track time in here. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so you're on your reporting tab. This is going to be based on the close that you're in. So if you're on the reporting tab here, right now I'm in March. If I want to go back to January, I can do that if I have January loaded in here, which I don't. Let me just open it real quick. So create previous closes. I can say that I want to open up those two. Create those, and now I have it as an option. So if I want to go back to January, this will pull my January information. So I'm on the reporting tab. This
Inside
is the
of that
financial
specific
report.
client.
Yes, inside this client under this close. So
Okay.
January month. Here I can come in, you got your cover page. Table of contents is just going to show up whatever you have remaining in here.
Mhm.
Your executive summary, you can turn some of this off, turn some of it on. So if you don't want certain things to show, you can remove those. You can add notes to this section as well. So I recommend just poking around in here and clicking buttons to see
Okay.
what they do. And that's the best way to learn, is to play in here. So you can play around with settings. If you see this little minus, that means that's something that you can remove. So if you aren't looking at this, your client doesn't need to see these, you can just remove that. Click delete, it'll take it off there. It takes it off of your table of contents. These are all so this is the default list here. Profit and loss last 3 months. You can come in here and you can change how this is viewed, whether you just want it to be a total, whether you want it to just be for 1 month. You can change your date range.
And
year to
adjust whether
date.
it's rounding. I know that's important for some people.
Yes. Yeah. So you can, there's a lot of variables here that you can change. Yeah. And you can change how it's rounded as well. You can show the variance. So that would be how much it's changed, or you can take that off.
Okay.
And like I said, play around with what you see. You can also add a custom column that gives you that comparison. Let's see. No, prior period is what I wanted. So if I were to choose the prior period, now I can decide whether I want to see the change by dollar amount or by percentages. So this is a good way to, be able to get the information that's going to be the most useful for your client, that's going to add the most value for your client. You can play around in here to manipulate these reports. So you've got your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and your statement of cash flows. All of those are here. They all have different variables at the top that you can play around with to get the right view. You can also come down here and add a report. So if you wanted to show profit and loss just for that month, but you also want to show profit and loss over the last 3 months, or maybe year to date by month, like if you want to have different views of the same information, you can come in here and you can add another one. And then set the parameters for that at the top as needed. So you could, so you can have multiples of the same type with different views. Again, whatever's going to be the most valuable for you and your clients to see. Top 10 customers and vendors. Again, this is something you can remove if you're not going to use it. And then the last one is metrics. Metrics is something that you have to set up on the metrics tab. It's a whole nother
rabbit hole,
playground.
To be honest.
Yes.
I'm glad that you said playground, because I was
You
like,
spend a lot of time in metrics. Yeah.
Metrics is really fun. I would definitely recommend starting with reporting just to get your basic reports, because metrics is going to be your bar graphs, your charts, your pie charts, all the crazy fun stuff. And I'm happy to send in my follow-up. Somebody else asked about this. So I'll include the Catch Up with Keeper that they did with Tyler Otto, where they're going through and creating metrics. So you have a breadcrumb on that rabbit hole if you would like to go down that a little bit deeper.
Okay, thank you.
Can you send me that too? Because I'll
send it in my total follow-up. I know that that's something that everybody is starting to think about, especially with the new year and stuff like that. So yes, absolutely, Caitlin, I'll make sure that's on the general follow-up for anybody that wants to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
so
if
much.
you had created visuals, you would see them here.
Okay,
And this is where you can add them. And I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole today, but
okay,
if you had them set up on that tab, you would see them in that final page of the report.
okay.
I already removed it, so it's not there. But I can come back in and add them if I wanted to add them back in.
Okay.
Let me
One
see.
other
What else
piece
is a
to
good?
mention
Go ahead.
before going too far. One, if you're making a lot of changes and you're
Yes,
having
that's
to
what you
make
do.
these same changes every single month, this is a section where you can create a reporting template in the same area that we can create exactly from here. So you can make your adjustments for this month, get it pretty just like you like it, and then save that as a template so you don't have to do the same clicks every single month. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Jody's
So
showing
you-
how you can do that.
Yep.
In
So you come up
settings?
here to settings. So once you've manipulated this, you're like, okay, this looks great. I like it. I want to
Mhm.
repeat the same thing next month. Come up to settings, and then you can say add current settings as a template. And then you
Okay.
can name it that specific client if you want to.
Okay,
If
okay,
it's something that you're going to use for every client, put in
Or
whatever
a
name you
certain
want.
level. There's some people
Yeah,
that will
or
do like based on their
service
different
tier.
service level.
Mhm.
Yep, exactly.
okay,
This is also where you can pull a template if you already have one created. So same section here, just wanted to kind of provide that as well.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to save that so I can show you where those live outside of this as well.
okay.
So now you can see, because I just saved it, it's showing me that I'm using that template.
Mm-hmm.
If I
And
had
if you
other
had more,
templates
you
in
can
here,
change it from
there
here.
would be a drop down list for you to use. This is also where
Okay.
you can change whether it's accrual or cash.
Okay,
So I always recommend double checking that. And if you want
Especially
to
if your
change the
numbers get
titles,
wonky, that's one of the first
yes.
things I would double check is like, am I in the right basis? Because that's an easy one that can go miss, but can save you a lot of hours if you start there.
okay,
Yeah. And of course, if you want to change the name of things, you can do so from here as well.
okay, yeah,
Before we go
Okay.
into where those templates are saved, I want to make sure we get one more piece in here of
Yeah.
how to publish. Yep, I think we're on the
Yes.
same page.
Yep, we were. Okay, so everything looks good. You're happy with the reports. You're ready to send them to your client. Come up here and click publish, and you're going to have several options. You can print to PDF, any of those things from here. You can email it directly. So this is going to have it as an attachment in your email.
okay,
You can add it to the client portal. So that's going to push it to that client portal, the section on the dashboard of the client portal for them to pull off. And then you can also manage your previous ones. So if you wanted to look at how you did something earlier, you can always come in here to review them or rename them as well.
okay.
So all of that will be here.
Well, I think that's a really good start for me. I'll start with that.
That'll at least give you a bunch of seeds that you can start planting.
Yes.
Email us if you have additional questions or if we need to
Yeah,
do a
absolutely.
brainstorming session just on this. Totally fine, but hopefully that gives you enough to start playing around with and at least get comfortable in.
Yeah.
That does. I appreciate your help. Thank you so much. I got to jump off. I've got
You're
a client
welcome.
call.
Thanks, Marianne.
Yep. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
Have a
rest
good
of your day.
one.
Happy
Bye-bye.
holidays.
You too.
All
Jody,
right, just
Sarah
so we
has a
have it as part
question.
of our recording, I'm going to put in here, show you where the templates are. So if you come into templates, these are all your project templates for your task lists within the close. This is a full close template. So this has all of your sections in it. Of course, you have your emails here, client and vendor. You've also got your text messages, those client portal questions that you can ask. All of these live here in the templates along with your reporting templates. So that one that we saved earlier is right here. If I wanted to make some adjustments to this template, I could come in here and do that. From this level, you cannot see the actual numbers. So you're just going to be putting in the parameters. You're just going to be changing those variables and saving that. So if you need to, if you're more visual like me and you want to see the numbers and how it looks on the page and then save it as a template, definitely recommend doing that at the client level and saving it like we showed you earlier. If you know what those variables are going to be already, and you just want to set up these templates so that next time you go through, you can easily do that. You can come in here and add as many as you need to. Give it a name. and then walk yourself through all of the different variables and the different options, things to turn on, turn off, and adjust in here. And then you can pull those anytime you need to.
And
You can
just
also
like-
have those.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm gonna look, yeah, right here for reporting. All client settings, reports. You can also come in here and assign them once you've got them set
Per
up.
client. Yep. I was just going to say that from the template level, if you go back, you do have a similar button across your task templates or your reporting templates to add it to a client right next to save. So if you'll open that one, yep,
Yes.
easy add to client there. So if you're chugging along with this and you want to add it in bulk, you can do it from here or in the settings. Thanks for adding that for the recording's sake. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sarah had a question about editing comments on the report.
Mhm.
If you don't mind.
Sure. You might want to pop on. Let me know exactly where you were looking. I know that an executive summary, you can add an extra note in here.
Yeah, so I'm
for
just curious,
that.
like when you go into the statement of cash flows, it'll
Oh.
have what seems like auto, like show explanations. It'll have what
Mhm.
seems like auto generated comments about like, you didn't collect as much money this month, so
Yeah.
cash is lower, you know, like, I don't know,
Like this.
yes. And the wording is a little bit weird, like we need to collect more money, like we're on a team and I'm gonna go collect the money kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was just curious if there's a way to edit those comments.
I
haven't
honestly
found
don't
one.
remember.
Okay.
Um,
I've been excluding them because they don't make a lot of sense without some explanation, further
Let-
explanation.
let me look.
Yeah, we'll poke around a bit, but I'll
Look on
also do some
client.
digging in the help center
Yeah.
and see if there's anything
Okay.
in there that I can help pull up. So I'll include that in my follow-up for anybody. I definitely forgot to mention this, but anybody who came today or registered, I'll send out the recording with any of the resources that we've talked about or any cannies out there and stuff too. So that'll come here in the next couple of days. So just keep an eye on that and I'll make sure to edit or add something in if we do find anything.
I haven't found anything.
Yeah. You
But-
poked around already?
I did, but I've only been using Keeper for about 6 weeks and I love it. But there's just been a few things that I'm like, I can't figure out where to find this.
Yeah. I know that I know that I've heard that question before. And I don't recall what the answer is. So we'll do some digging and see what
Okay.
we can find out.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're so welcome. Anybody else have any last minute questions? We might start to wrap up there, but I'm more than happy to, I know we had a lot of questions today. So if you still have something in your back pocket, now's the time to pull it out.
I see Joy's question about the receipts. If anybody has played around with that yet. And I have not. I don't have personal experience with it yet. I know that it's in beta, so it's out there. Maybe ask in the Facebook group.
That's what
to
I was going
see
to
if
do. I
there's
was going to go
anything,
through
yeah,
the Facebook group
float
and
around
see if
in
there was
there.
anything, any one that I could point to ask deeper questions about, or if there was any like videos or anything like that. So I'll also
Yeah.
kind of poke around a bit in the group and see.
I'm sure it'll be coming out soon, I would imagine. Then
I
we'll
think
all
that
get
the
to
last
play with it.
keeper up, yeah, last keeper update, I think they're hoping to have it live by January, so.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Fingers crossed.
I know. Knock on
Right?
all the wood I
They've
can.
been working so hard on it. They have really been putting a lot of work into those,
I had
as
one,
they do with everything.
right. I had one quick question on
Yeah.
the firm task level again, like the repeating. Like I
Yes.
created, I'm going to be bringing on an admin, and you know, so I did a task in I made a section and I created
Mhm.
one and I called it like, you know, keeper training. Like, okay, these are the things I want, and then I can then assign it to her
Yep.
when I bring her on, so she can kind of do a checklist of, okay, this is what we, you know, I
Right.
get these parts. But I don't want it to be recurring because it's not recurring, but
Right.
if I bring on somebody new, I want to be able to copy it essentially. Like if I can't make it as a template, can I copy it?
Right.
Do we know how to do that? Or is it?
No, it would be
Build it.
old fashioned manual copy paste.
Okay.
At least for right
highlighting
now,
Yeah.
that is a canny that's out there to be able to like copy over in the closed sections. We can copy from a section to a different section. With the non-closing and with firm tasks, that's not currently in the functionality because they work so differently. But I will pass along that canny because I know that that's something that we're excited for and that
Yes.
a lot of people end up with. Even to be able to move them across sections in here, I am the worst about creating it in a section and realizing that I created it in the wrong section.
Yes.
So I will pass along those cannies because that's not something we currently have available.
Yeah.
And I'm just doing these as kind of like brainstorming dumps, and then it's like, oh wait, that should really go up there, and then wait, I should put this, but it should go down here, and so
totally hear you and right there with you.
Yes.
I was like, I can't move it. Yeah, especially if I build it as a checklist.
Right. Like having to go in there and copy everything over. Yeah.
Okay.
So much time doing that.
Yeah. All right. Well, at least it gives me a spot to start with.
Yeah.
Then, so, okay.
Yeah. What I would say in the meantime, as a workaround, if you like say person 1 has been onboarded, they're good, they're all set with that. And now we have person 2, you could clear out the assignees and clear out the dates and just use that same section. So that's an option if they don't
I was gonna say the
overlap.
same thing.
So that's at least something you might play with, but I know that's not a perfect solution by any means.
Right.
Yeah. That was going to be my workaround section or workaround suggestion as well, is just reassign it, change the dates, rename it with the new person.
That's a good way. So, all right. Well, thank you. That was helpful. And I will say, going back through and viewing the old, the prior months videos has been very helpful as well.
Good.
Oh, so glad to hear that.
Happy
That's
to hear
awesome.
it.
Well, thank you all. Again, feel free to email us if we have any other questions, but I do want to kind of start wrapping up there. So I'll put our email in the chat in case anybody is unfamiliar or has to go look it up in their poor little inbox, because I know it's crazy this time of year. So email is in the chat if you need it. Otherwise, we will send out the follow-up with any resources we talked about and the recording, and then we will see you all next month in January. So next year, I guess. That's kind of crazy to say.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.